Hello. Thanks for being in this session. This is going to be an excellent session. I think there should be more people in here. I'm very surprised. We've been talking to one of our Propolis members, someone I've known for an awful long time, James Hauslander from HPE Aruba Networking. And we're on the subject of pilots. We're going to talk about how HPE Aruba's journey through ABM. We've titled it, When is Data Not Data? When it's a Bridge, how HPE Aruba Networking leveraged data for marketing and sales alignment. We know marketing and sales alignment is always a bit of a bugbear in B2B marketing, so we're going to talk about some of those things. I'm the Fireside chat. I'm going to be interviewing James and asking him lots of hopefully interesting and intelligent questions. You can be the judge of that. But if you've got questions you want to ask, please don't be shy. Put your hand up. We'll make this interactive as possible. So, James, welcome.
Thank you.
Great that you could be here. Tell us a bit about yourself as a background. So how long have you been at HPE Aruba?
Yeah, so I lead the marketing team at HPE Aruba Networking. We are the networking business unit within HPE. We're really supporting our customers around their network transformation, helping provide them with secure, intelligent network solutions that can help them as a business. I joined HPE Aruba Networking as part of an acquisition coming up for 4 years ago. I came in and led the channel marketing organization for EMEA and now have the whole of the EMEA function, so field and channel marketing in my remit.
There you go. So the company's changed quite a lot in that time and it's continued to change, as we were just talking about.
Yeah, we have a pending acquisition coming up, so it's interesting times and exciting times ahead for us as well.
Not a small one either. So.
No.
Okay. Well, nothing ever stands still in the tech sector, as I'm sure you all know. So that's really exciting. So, okay. So let's talk a bit about. Let's get started then. So tell us a bit about what initially prompted HPE Aruba to move towards a more targeted account approach in your marketing strategy. What was the catalyst for that start of your ABM journey?
So I'd say there's multiple things actually. Firstly, if you look at the direction of the business, HPE Aruba Networking has been a huge growth engine for HPE since the acquisition back in 2015. And over that time, as I said, significant market growth. We've got a really strong installed base of customers. But I think one of the challenges we face is a large percentage of our revenue comes from what we would class as our core technologies, the traditional part of the business that we've had. Over that 7-8 year period, or 9 year period now, we've made a number of acquisitions in different spaces to complete that networking portfolio to help fulfill some of the needs of the clients. And as a result of that, that's meant we've had to get to different buyer types outside of the traditional networking persona. And particularly for us now, it's about really going out there and positioning us in front of the security buyers to make us relevant from that perspective. In addition to that, our sales organization is under pressure to go and acquire new logos. And those new logos could be completely white space accounts for HPE, or it could be going after what we call our green accounts, which have other parts of the portfolio from HPE's perspective installed, but maybe not the networking technology. So as a result, the sales organization has a requirement, as I say, to get in front of those accounts, but also to go and identify those highest propensity accounts that we know where the opportunity is that we want to go and get a larger share of wallet into. So that's really the main driver. It's more from a direction perspective of the customers and the business that we have. And
it's a strategic commitment, right, on the part of HPE to this whole networking category, right? This is a really important part of the business and it's driving it forward.
And it's interesting actually to that point, the networking business in HPE today makes up about 30% of the revenue, but is actually makes up about 50% of our profit.
Okay.
So it's got a significant focus. The other, actually, just want to add one point. The other reason we've gone in that direction is because we've had a bit of a change in the marketing organization about 18 months ago. We've moved into more of a centralized model, and as a result of that centralized model, we've actually spun up a new account-based team globally that support us, and I'll talk about some of the digital elements of that as we go through the discussion today.
I think it almost also might be useful to take a step back and talk about who you're targeting, right? What kind of companies you're targeting? Is it just enterprise organizations? Is it the full kind of spectrum?
It's the full spectrum. So we have a portfolio that caters right the way from what we classify as the SMB segment, so the sub 500 employee size organizations, and we have a technology that we tend to drive through our channel organization, through our resellers and our distribution partners. And then from there upwards, we go right the way up into the large enterprise. So we have a number of the household names, for example, Henkel, who was on the stage earlier, are one of our large customers. in our German region. So yeah, we've spanned across the complete spectrum in terms of size of company.
I love that about B2B marketing, how everyone's selling to everybody else, right, to different degrees. So, but also, and you, in terms of your person you're targeting, individuals or the personas or the job titles you're targeting, is the CTO, is the head of security, or the CEO? Who is it?
I would say historically we've been into the networking persona, and probably historically much more of a technical sale. So this is part of why we're transforming what we're doing from a marketing perspective, because we're having to elevate ourselves up the stack.
Right.
We've not always got those relationships higher up the organization, for example, at a CTO, CIO level. And as I said earlier, increasingly from a persona perspective, you'll see us in the market leading out with our security-first AI-powered networking, rolls off the tongue, strapline, and that's because we're trying to drive that relevance into the CISO, into the security persona as well. So yeah, we're expanding across those different jobs.
Yeah, and so moving up the food chain.
Moving up the food chain.
That's really interesting. That great context, isn't it, from why you were doing what you were doing. So, okay. So you mentioned the essence of the title of this session is about data, right? When is data not data? When it's a bridge, and you've got. We mentioned starting with data. Could you walk us through how you built your data foundation using AI and multiple data sources? So a few touch points there. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this has been a journey that HPE's been on over the last probably 3 years, 2 to 3 years, to build out this model that we can leverage. And I'll talk about how we've used that with sales. But fundamentally, through our business intelligence, our marketing intelligence teams, and all of the tools that we have available internally and also with some of our external partners as well, we've actually built a data model that we now integrate, and again, I'll talk about this later, integrate this into our sales segmentation. And fundamentally, from an internal perspective, we've looked at our installed base data, we've looked at our sales pipeline across the entire HPE organization. We've also looked at where we've got campaign data, web data, etc. So that inside-out view. And then from the outside-in perspective, we've worked with some data houses, we've worked with some third-party organizations, media providers. We have partnerships with the likes of Sixth Sense, who we leverage as a platform for intent. And all of this has effectively been aggregated together, and much cleverer people than I have come up with a propensity model that we now use with the sales organization to make decisions in terms of where we select those accounts. And fundamentally, we look at where those accounts are in market, and that's where we leverage the likes of the Sixth Sense data. We also look at potential revenue streams for us across the portfolio, so we map that against the different technology areas. So we then effectively rank those accounts, score them, and we look at what the total addressable market for us is in that account and compare that to the share of wallet we have today, so we can identify where the true larger accounts are that we want to go after from a revenue point of view. And then lastly, we look at where do we have existing relationships today. So, and we align this to what we call our RAD or our RDA model, those accounts that are those large installed base accounts that we want to retain versus those that we've got some small footprint in that we want to go and develop and acquire and potentially actually acquire accounts. And that's where we collaborate and build upon the relationships we have in the account, but also those relationships that we have across the broader HPE organization to help us get in and penetrate those.
So this is an example of integration across the whole very broad portfolio of HPE, right?
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Which inherently has challenges. Yeah.
In a large, complex organization, it has its challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, but I guess it's best practice, right? It's what you should be doing because they're good relationships in there.
And that's actually something we've done as an organization. Our financial year started last Friday. And as an organization, we've brought on networking our Aruba sellers much closer into the geo model of HPE to drive exactly that behavior.
Okay, so in terms of the kind of how has this changed your conversation relationship with sales? I think particularly marketing's relationship with sales, is it, anytime you're asking sales to do something different, I imagine can be a point of conflict or at least disagreement. But how have you get them on board, or what's happened to your relationship through this journey?
So I think fundamentally our journey or our relationship with sales has actually transformed over the last 18 months. And I put that down to the credibility of marketing has increased. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were to go out and ask a salesperson within our organization 2-3 years ago, what's marketing there to do? You get a very, very mixed view and feedback, right? So what we've tried to do is actually lead with data. So we've utilized the propensity model that we've built. We've sat down it started with the geo leaders, the country leaders, and then taken that into the sales managers to start to drive that behavior down to the sales organization. And actually the credibility's changed because marketing is turning up with something that's different. They're not just there to provide the giveaways or to be the event executioners. They're actually there and coming forward with insights on their accounts. And that's really opened the eyes to our sales people who own the relationship into the account. And fundamentally, I think they see that in a different way because it's helped the sales managers prioritize the accounts that they want to give to their sellers, but it's also helped the sellers prioritize the accounts. In some instances, they might have 100 accounts, so they can actually see where those opportunities are, the low-hanging fruit that they can go after. And then as a result of that, it's driven a different marketing engagement through our marketing activities that we're running out in the field.
So it sounds to me like, I just think that the time's taken a bit of a jump. Someone could tell me if that, oh no, there we go, that's better. So it sounds like there's exactly the title suggests, the data is the catalyst for the change in relationship, right? Prior to that, I'm supposing a bit from what you said, right? So tell me if I'm wrong, but there's an element of the previous relationship was, we want something from marketing, we'll prescribe what we think it is, and marketing have got to respond to that or push back on it. Whereas if you're coming to a room with data and saying, actually, you should be doing this, you should be focusing here, is that correct? Have I got that right?
Yeah, I would say marketing was almost like a service function to the business.
Right.
It's now we're still on this journey, but we're now becoming that trusted advisor to the business and that partner to the sales business.
And catalysing the conversation rather than reacting to it.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating. I mean, in itself, that is such a revelation in so often the scenarios you talk about in B2B marketing. Okay, so that's great. So that's a really great understanding about kind of how you started and how well that data plays that role, and then the impact, how that started to change minds. Could you tell us about your initial pilot using LinkedIn as a platform for digital-based engagement? What did you learn?
Well, and I'll just share some examples of what that looks like. So we probably started this journey started this program about 2 years ago, and we've probably had mixed success on it. But fundamentally what we did was we leveraged LinkedIn. We leveraged the propensity data to select those top propensity accounts. We layered in our intent from our Sixth Sense platform to help us narrow down in terms of the focus areas that we wanted to drive out. And then we aligned our campaign content to provide those ads via LinkedIn as a platform to the account, but also to those specific personas that we were looking to target. And I think the learnings that we made along the way was, firstly, we probably selected and put too many accounts through the program.
Right.
The second thing we learned was, and this is particularly key and goes back to something I said earlier, to start with, we actually looked at accounts where we had existing opportunity. And yes, the feedback we got was this helped us and aided us, but we invested quite a significant amount of budget through this digital program into those accounts where we were accelerating opportunity, whereas actually we wanted to try and turn this more into how we generate new opportunity or new engagements into accounts where we maybe don't have the coverage.
But I guess that might be one of those things where it's a nice learning afterwards, right? Because you want to back your winners to start off with when you're trying to prove something.
Exactly.
But then, so is the fact that you're then perhaps thinking perhaps you've done something different suggest that it was successful, or is that why you're considering, why you perhaps retrospectively reconsidered that? Yeah,
and I think that's why, and I'll talk a little bit later on how we're redesigning our strategy from a marketing perspective to really focus ourselves towards more the top of the pyramid. So I would say that was probably one of our biggest learning was the mass accounts. Also, the whole objective of this was to look at driving awareness and engagement into these accounts. And the biggest learning for us is how do we now link this to what we do in the field around activation and ultimately turning that into pipeline and tangible outcomes down the route. So they're probably the key learnings. But overall, this again helped us shift the needle with sales because it was enabling sales to also get into their accounts. And I'll give you an example that we had in Saudi Arabia towards the end as well.
Okay, sounds good. And is it still LinkedIn only, or have you broadened out your digital advertising?
So we're currently, we use LinkedIn for the specific personalised ads, but obviously we have a broader digital strategy as part of our global campaigns as well, which leverages other media platforms.
Okay. So then you move. So talk about how you move on from that. So how did you expand from digital engagement to incorporate field marketing activities for these target accounts?
Yeah, and it was mentioned, I think, in a couple of the sessions earlier, and there were a couple of questions in the keynote. The main area that we've linked this into the field or main two areas really. Firstly is the BDRs, our business development reps. These are resources that we fund via marketing. They're an extension of the sales and marketing team, in particular the account teams. Historically, we've really had challenges with sales wrapping their arms around their accounts, not wanting anyone to go out and engage or speak to their accounts. And what this enabled us to do, with leading with the data with sales, it actually enabled us to leverage those business development reps in a new capacity. And we actually flipped our BDR model over the last year from more of a response management to more of an outbound perspective. So we've enabled them with all of the tools. They have access to Sixth Sense to get the intent. They've got access to Tech Target, Priority Engine, and a number of other tools like Marketo Sales Insights. So that's been a real game changer. And in last year, we tripled the amount of pipeline that we saw coming out of those BDRs. So that was the first thing, and integrating them into what the field are doing together with the sales organization. And then secondly, our field marketeers, after we moved towards the centralized model, saw themselves as event marketeers.
Right.
So what we tried to do is put some more structure around our event strategy. And here you can see, starting at the bottom, we still go out and we're present at trade shows. We still need to drive our brand. But as you start to move up, we have our own events that enable us to get in front of those target accounts. And the ones in orange and green there, we rely on our salespeople to drive the attendance at those events. So we've really focused our account strategy to those events to make sure that we've got the right accounts, the right personas attending. And then where we've really shifted the needle in our field activity is towards the top of the pyramid. We're now running roadshow type events around the key areas of our business and working together with third parties to get us access to accounts and personas that maybe we don't have. And then also right at the top, we're leveraging, they talked about it earlier in a different format, I think it was Splunk. We leverage our customer innovation centers to do that one-to-one or one-to-few engagement with a number of clients where we're maybe trying to open up a larger opportunity or help the sales organization progress opportunities. So that's really fundamentally how we've shifted the role of field marketing and a couple of the changes we've made around BDRs and our event strategy.
The BDRs thing is interesting, isn't it? Because there's it feels like there's a constant evaluation of the role of BDR in the modern B2B marketing and sales world. And actually, and I think my assumption probably was it more likely to reduce rather than increase. So that's fascinating. They're playing their way in that regard.
And it's not easy for them, right? We've had, it's been a long, hard slog because trying to get into some of these larger enterprise accounts is not easy.
Yeah, okay. So can you share some examples of how these different touch points came together, and perhaps we might provide an idea of a timeline for this?
Yeah, so a good example of this is actually an account that we had in Saudi Arabia, and this was an established HPE Aruba Networking account that we've had for years. However, as I said, the key focus areas of the business was to expand out, in particular around our data center networking solution and our SASE solution, which meant us getting to different personas that we didn't have relationships with. And if you just go back to the start of this year, we got the account manager on board that this was an account in his region that he wanted to go and target with the LinkedIn ads. They seeded those out through January and February. The engagement that we had there was strong. We then had the opportunity to be at a trade show event called Leap in Saudi in March. And at that point in time, we created a bespoke value analysis report that gave them some tangible business outcome data that we put in front of the account team. And that was really the trigger, because multiple people that we'd engaged with on that journey through the start point of this year then expressed an interest, which resulted in a meeting. Cut forward, following a workshop we held around these two solution areas, we then followed that up also with our BDRs, who were doing a targeted outbound call-out campaign around a specific sales play that we had to go and open up an opportunity into one part of our portfolio. So all of a sudden, we'd identified four new touch points in the account around 4 different parts of our portfolio today. And as a result, just in a couple of months ago, we took 3 of our contacts out to our CIC center in New York, and we've created a significant amount of opportunity that's attributed back to marketing, and we have full support of the account manager. So I use this as a good example of what's a relatively quick timeline of 8 months of going from no engagement to an opportunity, or 4 opportunities around different parts of our portfolio, which is where that account can now grow from that $10 million account into multi-million-dollar account for us.
And given the size of the numbers involved, that's not a bad timeline, is it really? Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'm conscious of time. I think we've talked a bit about the RAD earlier on, haven't
Yep.
we? So we can probably move that on with that question. But tell us a bit about your strategy for the top 20 accounts in Europe. How are you approaching these on a true one-to-one basis?
Yeah, so linked to that RAD model, we sat down, we've just entered a financial year. We actually aligned with our sales operations organization to bring together all of that marketing intelligence data together with the segmentation file. And it's actually enabled our sales force to select those accounts. And as a result of that selection, we're now sitting down with the sales organization as we head into Q1. And we're actually going to look at who are our top 20 accounts. So we're tasking each of our field marketing managers to identify between 3 or 5 accounts in their region. And we then want to take those 3 and 5 accounts and that the field marketing managers to leverage the AI tools that they have at their disposal. So utilising the likes of ChatGPT to get insights in terms of what the challenges are and key focus areas are for that particular account. We're also using Chat HPE, which is a tool that we've created ourselves, to then align those challenges to the solutions and technology that we have. And then taking that and sitting down with the account team to craft the messages that we can then plug into our marketing vehicles, whether that's email communications, into our digital ads, arming our BDRs with the relevant enablement around the messages that we want to put out. Fourthly, also arming our sales team, so around a sales enablement perspective. So we're all taking a consistent message to market. And then the field team will then use the field activities, the webinars, the digital activities, the events that they have to then bring those customers or prospects into those events to engage them in a face-to-face or virtual capacity.
I think we're covering lots of ground, these answers, which is good. So the questions are dovetailing together. But in terms of the AI stuff, and it's fascinating here, I don't know if you found this listening to the sessions this morning, we've gone from AI as this, oh, I don't know, what is this thing? How does this work? To everyone's talking about how they're actually actionably deploying it. And you've got obviously your own, you guys in ChatGPT and Chat HPE. And I guess if you've got your own deployment iteration of it, it's got to be embraced by the organisation, right? So is there a lot of freedom in terms of how you can use it, or is there some kind of strong guardrails at the moment still?
So there's guidance, and this is all fairly new within the last sort of 6 to 9 to 12 months probably, where we're providing enablement to our teams around how they can use ChatGPT or what's the boundaries and the guardrails in terms of how they use those tools. So it's something actually that we're enabling our own marketeers around. We're enabling them, we're enabling our BDRs with the tools to leverage and use in their own marketing. So it's really about that education and also that motivation, and also providing them with the confidence that they've got the tools and they know how to use them, and they know within best practice how they can, the art of the possible, really.
And I guess that's evolving all the time as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a few minutes left for questions. Anybody like to ask James anything about what his experience is? And as the lady down here at the front, Shivani, if we can get a microphone to you, just bear with us just 1 second. So thank you for being so candid, James, about this. It's been a fascinating journey you've been on, and I think that it's clear that you've learned an awful lot around what this could look like. So, hello.
Hello, thank you. Very interesting, and I have lots of questions, but I'm going to try and stick to 2, and I might grab you afterwards. One is how you manage that process of bringing the SDRs into your team, and did you have to change revenue models? I mean, it's a very challenging thing to do. I think we're facing that at ServiceNow, and so I'd love to hear more about that. And also, how are you measuring? How are you tracking? So you're providing MQLs to SDRs. I mean, do you have new tools that you use to track those rather than the old method of sort of lead to opportunity? Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
I'll take the first one because it's easy. Well, it's easier. So our BDRs are actually a outsourced model. So we use an agency, but they have access to our Salesforce system. We give them licenses for intent through 6 Sense. And they're effectively an integral part of our team. I see that our marketing resources effectively own the management and the day-to-day of them, but we need to make sure that our sales teams are engaged with them. So what we've been doing is not only giving them the tools to use, but we've been arming them with the content. We've been enabling them through our enablement team that we have around the technology and how they can go get the foot in the door for us to qualify and get the meetings for the sales organization. And then we've also been giving them access to other tools like Marketo Sales Insights to enable them to be more efficient in their day-to-day. And what we've been doing with the agency is actually trying to shift how we measure them, because If you go back 2 to 3 years ago, 100% of their measure was on, their output was on generating opportunity off the back of inbound leads that they got. Whereas now we're saying to them, there's a list of accounts of which potentially they could all be greenfield or whitefield accounts, right? Which is a challenge, which therefore needs a different type of metric. And it's also meant we've needed a different type of resource there. So we've actually started to hire different people into those roles. So does that answer the first part of your question? And then the second part of your question is a slightly more challenging one. We measure our funnel, and actually we're getting a lot better at this. So we still measure the traditional funnel from inquiry all the way through to close one revenue, and we're tracking that in terms of accepted opportunities. But what we're also starting to do, utilising our BDR function, is starting to look at, from that outbound piece, where are those opportunities coming from? What does the size of the opportunity look like versus more of your traditional funnel? When it comes to measuring the true ABM programs, I'd say we're probably a little bit early on, and that's mainly because through the digital ABX, which is the main piece of our targeted program over the last 18 months, that's largely been on awareness and engagement, and that's where we've struggled to track that through into pipeline. So that's an area we've got that we're focused on for this year.
Great questions. I'm not sure if we have time for another one. Do we have time? One more. Okay, lady down here at the front's got a question. Sorry, Shivani, got to come bring you back. Great questions, Bo. Thank you very much for those. Sounds like you picked hopefully you picked the non too difficult ones as well. So.
Potentially just a really quick answer, circling back to your data model and all the different sources of insight that you get. That looked very expensive, kind of like all the different tools and sources that you use. And did you mention that you share that across HPE with other business units and functions, and you just get your own slice of that?
Yeah, so it was done across the complete HPE organisation. So we look at all of the revenue across all of the business units outside of networking as well. And then some of the media partners and the digital providers that we have on there, some of them are ones that we invest in today. So we have Intent, for example, is provided by Sixth Sense. Marketo provides our CRM system. And then I think for this project, I wasn't involved in the day-to-day part of it, but for this project, I think we also went out and procured with a couple of the other data providers to give us that holistic view. So I can't comment on the cost of it because I don't know, right? So. But it was fairly complex, and it was done over a long period of time.
I get the sense there's lots more questions we could ask you. So James, thank you so much for being so honest and frank and candid about what your experiences are. And it's a great case study in how to go on that ABM journey. So thank you all for being part of this. Thanks to James.
Thank you.